Welcome to the Jeff Ball Show.
Welcome to Jeff Ball's show.
Welcome to the Jeff Balls Show.
Welcome to the Jeff Ball Show.
Welcome to the Jeff Ball Show.
Welcome to the Jeff Ball's show.
Jeff, a serial entrepreneur, has founded and sold over 20 businesses, including one for over $30 million.
With a proven track record of success, he's directly employed over 500 people.
One of the most influential entrepreneurs of our generation.
Follow Jeff's life live as he builds his next business in real time and introduces you to other inspiring creators and leaders along the way.
Yeah, this is the Jeff Ball Show, and we are on a mission to help people that are starting new businesses, new entrepreneurs with under 50 employees, try and get their start, and hopefully we can help you like cut some corners and cut some years off your growth by learning from other entrepreneurs that are, you know, in the same spot as you or in ahead of you. And so we're bringing all you entrepreneurs and trying to pick your brains and get all the best lessons. So $1 million donation, man, that's a lot of money, dude.
That's the goal. I mean, you know, I would see all these big companies donating, you know, writing these $1 million checks, and I was like, man, I'd love to write $1 million check, but I'm just a small business. But if you take the time and you donate $100 here, $150 there, maybe you get to $1,000 one day, over time, you keep donating, giving, that money's going to add up to $1 million. So we want to showcase that just because you're a small business doesn't mean you can't have a big impact, right? That $100, $200, $1,000 here and there, that's a big impact. You don't have to be writing $1 million checks to be having that big impact. You know, you can be contributing in your own small way.
Sure. So is that a marketing thing as much as it is a giving thing, or what's your charity? Like, what's your passion? Who are you donating this money to?
You know, we're kind of cause agnostic. We don't really tie. For a long time, we thought we had to hitch our wagon to one specific cause, you know, like many companies do. But our community is made up of a lot of different people who care a lot about a lot of different causes. So we've donated to almost every charity you can imagine here in Calgary and Western Canada and across the country as well. Our most recent effort was when the Jasper wildfires were going on. We launched a t-shirt in less than a day of Jasper design, and we said 100% of all the profits were going to be going to the Canadian Red Cross. And so within 5 days, we sold over 1,000 shirts. And we raised $25,000, which the federal government matched and the provincial government matched. So overall, it was about $75,000.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
wow.
in 5 days.
Yeah, that's, you know, like 7.5% in 5 days.
Yeah. So we ran it as a pre-order, and so it's things like that. You know, coming up to the holiday season, we have our giving garments. For every toque, blanket, and pair of socks that we sell, we donate one for a shelter. This is, I think, our 7th year doing it in a row. And so little things like that.
Yeah, when I went to university, I got a scholarship, but it wasn't really a scholarship. So it was written in a way that it said, "We're giving you this money, but we expect you to like pay it forward," kind of thing. So it was kind of a, we're going to pay for your school, but as soon as you're in a position where you can pay it forward, we expect you to pay it forward. And not only that, they phone me every year too.
No way.
Yeah, not in a pestering way, but they're just like, hey, you know, like, you got these scholarships, we're just checking in, you know, like, have you been keeping us on your mind? Is there any causes you know, kind of thing? And I was like, man, that's really cool. But the most interesting thing about entrepreneurs and business guys that I find is they're some of the most charitable people, you know. Like, they're always giving back.
Well, I think as a small business owner and entrepreneur, it's any kind of success you have can't be attributed just to you and you alone. You know, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and we are so supported by the community. We've met so many people throughout the years we've been in business that are so willing to go to bat for us, support us however they can, whether it's buying a shirt or sharing us out on social or just giving us a nice referral or a nice Google review. It's simple little things. And so people just constantly are giving to us. And so how can you not just want to pay it forward and give it back and show it, be the example that I believe, you know, we're a business, we're in this to make money. We're in this to make a profit. But just because we want to make a profit doesn't mean we can't have a good impact on the community.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that that's the way that businesses should be. You know, I don't like being called a social enterprise. I don't think social enterprises are set up for success. I think in order for a business to be successful, it has to make money. It has to be a profit, you know, but you can have a mission as well. You need money for your mission, but you can make money and have a mission at the same time.
Sure. I find a lot of people say 10% is what they want to give. You know, whatever they make, they want to give back about 10% kind of thing.
We used to say that. We used to say, you know, 10% of all our profits go back to local charities. And then at the end of the year, we started adding it up, and we were like, oh, man, I think we're giving a lot more than 10%. So that's why we started just saying having that goal of $1 million, because that was a nice number that we want to hit. And we gave ourselves a deadline of 2030. And once we reach $1 million, it'll be $10 million.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, at this pace, you're going to reach that goal way before 2030.
Hopefully, that's the plan. That's the plan.
So tell me, like, I'm always curious, like, how come you started the business? Like, bring us to that point where you're like, you know what, I'm going to start a business around this. Like, tell us that story.
Well, growing up here in Calgary, went to high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought that the key to success and key to happiness was to make as much money as possible. So after university, I did what most people here in Calgary would do if they wanted to make a lot of money. I went into oil and gas, and it's a fine industry, but just wasn't my passion. I didn't do well there. Mm-hmm. And one day after spending 2 years in oil and gas, I got laid off, and my whole world was kind of turned upside down, going like, you know, I didn't really enjoy working in oil and gas. I want to find something that I'm passionate about, that I can be happy with, that I can be a little bit more in control of my own life, but also give back to the community. And I looked to my parents, who, you know, if you couldn't tell from my lovely ginger beard, they immigrated here from Ireland. No money, no education, and they built a life for themselves through starting a business. And what do all good Irish immigrants do when they come to Canada? They open an Irish pub. And so that's what they did. It was their lifelong dream. And so they were able to build a business, be in control of their lives. But I saw how they didn't just they didn't run their business just for pure profit's sake. They started that business as a way to build a life for themselves, but also give back to the community. So growing up, I was always working in the dish pit or as a bartender, but I was able to see firsthand how they had an impact on the community. Every time they would hire a new Canadian, they'd help them get a job in their field, or help bring their family over, or, you know, donate to a cause, or give food out to a cause, or they were always using their business as a vehicle to give back and build community. I thought that was really cool. So what if I could start a business, have the same sort of impact, be my own boss, that kind of thing, find something I was really passionate about. And I really kind of dug clothes. I really was into clothing, about how clothing is a representation of our values. It showcases who we are, what we're into, and it can be a way to bring other people with those same values together and to help each other grow. So I did what anyone does when they have a crazy, silly idea. I Google searched how to make a t-shirt company, watched a YouTube video, and thanks to the technology out there today, you can start a t-shirt company in an hour. You wanted to go start a t-shirt company tonight, you can start one, $50, you know, through the magic of Shopify and drop shipping. A couple hours and $50 later, I had my own online t-shirt company.
Man, that's cool. Yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed about a lot of entrepreneurs is it seems like they're like, I was like doing okay, and then something happened and everything went to shit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I started this business.
Yeah.
And then there's always that few years, the first few years. A lot of people struggle. Did you find that?
Yeah,
the
of
first
course.
Few years?
Yeah, I didn't know the first thing about clothing. I didn't know the first thing about running a business, and I'd come up against roadblock after roadblock. But it was just so much fun. You get, you know, the Shopify app, you get a little ka-ching every time you make a sale. And to know that there was a stranger out there who I didn't know, we had no connection, but they believed in what I was doing, whether they liked the shirt or they believed in the mission. And you know, I had taken a little bit of nothing else, slapped it together, put some spit on it, and I created something. And someone out there was willing to spend their hard-earned money to support me and buy that, you know. So every little order, and I'd get like an order a week, order every 2 weeks, that was enough to kind of keep me going, saying, you know, I can't give up. Like, let's see what's around the next corner. Let's just keep going.
So tell me, when you started your business, how long was it from the time that you decided, you know what, I'm going to start a clothing company, to the time you heard that first Shopify ding? How long was that?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah. So I just became like a madman. It became my entire focus. I just started going on every social platform. I started reaching out to people, cold calling. I just started getting out there as much as possible. It's actually kind of how I got on this podcast, believe it or not. I found this podcast because I was on the Calgary subreddit, and Kyle, he had mentioned, he put a post, hey, any business owners? And that's exactly what I used to do when I first started. I would fire stuff on Reddit and I could find people that shared interests, and I would respond to random strangers, and I would meet random people off the internet because I wanted to connect with other people that was as passionate as me. And you do enough over that time, like how do you build a community? You do it by one authentic relationship at a time. Whether you like it or not, Jeff, you're part of the local laundry community now. And who knows where that's going to take us. Maybe we'll never see each other again after this, or maybe I'll call up one day and say, hey Jeff, do you know this guy, or I need some help, can you help me with this? Or maybe you call up and say, hey Connor, I need some t-shirts, or hey Connor, can you mentor this person? You never know.
You bet.
Right?
Yeah.
But now we've got this connection, and now we're part of each other's community, and now we can help each other grow and help each other's mission. And that to me was so intoxicating, and I just thought that was so cool. And you meet one passionate person that's doing what they're supposed to be doing, it makes you want to do what you're supposed to be doing that much more.
Yeah, it's interesting how there's like a sub community of like entrepreneurs, like almost like a secret club almost.
It is, and like game recognizes game, because we're not built like everyone else is, right? Our mind, I'm just, I don't really know you, Jeff, but I imagine your mind doesn't rest. Like when you describe, you're 2 years off, and like I'd be exactly the same. After a while, I'd be like, okay, let's get back in the game. Let's do something. Like we're just built different. Yeah. We can't sit at a desk 9 to 5 all day long. We can't sit at home, do nothing all day.
It's an interesting thing. I bought a cabin at a lake in Montana. It's called Blaine Lake.
Yeah.
And it's just pretty much most cabin owners, or at least 60%, are probably entrepreneurs, or at least entrepreneur adjacent, right?
Yeah.
And those cabins, probably, I'd say 70 or 80% of them, they never hit the market.
Yeah.
They're just traded hands between like the network of the entrepreneurs. So if you want on the lake, on almost any lake, it's like you have to like almost be in through some kind of a network.
Yeah.
So like the realtors, their network works, but it's like they get like 1 out of 5 sales.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Like, you'll be talking to your neighbor or something, and you'll all of a sudden hear, oh, did you hear John sold his cabin down there? It's like it didn't even hit the market or anything. I feel like this entrepreneur community is like a real similar thing. It's kind of like, like I own the Three Boys Marina. It's like now all of a sudden it's like I'll probably just reach out to you when I need some shirts done or something. It's like this network just kind of like communicates, and like it's like an organism almost. It like has its own heartbeat and everything.
Because our brain functions the same way. We can speak the same language. And
it happens so lightning fast, because it's just like a text, right? Like, hey, give me a quote on these kind of shirts. This is kind of what I'm looking for. Send me something.
Yeah.
And it's like, it takes like 4 seconds compared to like this big long process of going through and
because we know what each other's going through, and it's like, okay, Jeff's a good guy, but there's no need for pleasantries right now. Like, this is what he needs, or this is what I need. And it's like, you're not going to take anything personal. I'm not going to take anything personal.
It's like another language. Almost,
And then people who aren't entrepreneurs, aren't small business, or maybe used to working 9 to 5, working corporate, which is fine. That works for them. It just doesn't work for us. But they don't understand it. Like I go to like family reunions, and it's.
For me, it feels like I have to put like a little like vignette before I talk to them, like a little filter almost. Like, okay, this person's an entrepreneur. I can just send them 3 or 4 sentences. Yeah. And then I can just leave it with them and feel confident that in a week or whenever he gets to it, he'll fire me something back.
Yeah.
But if it's like somebody that's kind of outside that community that thinks differently, it's kind of like, hey, how's it going? You almost have to have like an introductory paragraph. I'm doing this, and this is what I want. But
I don't even know what to talk about if it's not business. Like if I'm like stuck with someone and they're not an entrepreneur, small business owner, like I struggle to like find interesting stuff to talk, because it's all I think about, and it's all I want to do.
Mm-hmm. So with your company, are you establishing a brand that you're going to sell on the t-shirt, or are you selling t-shirts with somebody's logo on them? Tell me a little bit about the brand.
Great question. So it's definitely shifted over the first couple of years. When we first started, it was all about different Calgary communities. I wanted to do all these different Calgary communities. And then it shifted to the YYC design, coming up with something that really represented Calgary. And we had a CAN design for Canada. And we sold in like 25 stores across Canada. We were in big box stores and all this. But then when COVID hit, we kind of switched to custom corporate clothing model. So now 80% of our revenue, we're taking different companies' brands and putting their logo on our shirts. Think, banks, energy companies, construction companies, companies that want a more premium feel. They want to support local, support small business. They want clothing that's going to last. They come to us, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you find the brands? How do you screen for the brands and the price and everything?
Yeah, so we switched to Canadian manufacturing in 2017. So we were called Local Laundry, and people kept asking, like, we called Local Laundry, where's your stuff made? I didn't have an answer. I didn't know. So we looked into it, and, we used to make clothing here in Canada. And prior to 1989, over 70% of all clothing bought and sold in Canada was made in Canada. As of 2022, that number is less than 5%. And we saw this shift, and we decided, let's support Canadian manufacturing, support a diverse Canadian economy, support a better quality piece of clothing. And so we kind of dove headfirst into that. And so a lot of these companies are coming to us, and they like the Canadian made aspect. They like the made in Canada aspect. They like the quality that comes with made in Canada. And they feel good that they're supporting, a mission that we're on. And so we started doing that and creating custom clothing. And now we're going down the acquisition path. So we're now acquiring other clothing companies and bringing them into our fold, into our portfolio.
Okay. So how does that work? How do you find the companies? How do you value them?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Now we're speaking our language, right? Yeah. Your ears perk up. So I'm really inspired by this fellow named Bernard Arnault. He's one of the richest men in the world, and he is the founder of LVMH. Okay. Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. And he built this luxury empire. He owns every single luxury brand you can think of. Tiffany's, Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, you name it, he owns it. And what he would do is he would find undervalued companies that had a great brand. So his first company that bought was Christian Dior, and it went bankrupt, and he bought it from bankruptcy from the French government. But he recognized that while it wasn't a very good business, financially or operationally, it had a great brand that people recognized. Right? There's a famous story. He was in a taxi cab in New York City, and they said, "Oh, you're from France," and the taxi driver couldn't name the French president, but he knew who Christian Dior was, and he was like, "Okay, there's something there." So he buys all these brands that underperform financially, brings them in his fold, brings his expertise, brings his team in, his processes. He's able to share resources, share assets across each brand, economies of scales, you name it. And so that's what I want to do with the local market. So during the pandemic, a lot of local companies, a lot of clothing companies boomed, and there was a lot of extra cash in the economy, and everyone did really well. But ever since, you've seen local clothing companies, small business just decline. And a lot of companies are really struggling. And we struggled there for a long time too. And what I realized is that all these small businesses that are value driven, they can't survive on their own. We can't survive on our own. We have to band together, because us as little guys, we're fighting a losing battle against inflation, against, lower household income and disposable income and that kind of thing. And so all these advantages that the big guys have, whether it's price or logistics or a team, us as small businesses have to have that. So we have to band together. So we started acquiring last year. We acquired our first company in November, our second in January, and we got about 3 or 4 others in the pipeline. Okay, so
are you comfortable with sharing which companies you acquired? Or?
Yeah, of course. So the first one that we acquired was one called CDN, and that's one of the sweaters I brought today. Same, Canadian-made clothing. They're a little bit more hockey focused, than Local Laundry is, but they have a great community, a great people that have a similar mission to give back to community. And so, we share the same manufacturer, so we're able to get better pricing on our manufacturing as a whole, better pricing on our decorating, or bring them into our warehouse, so their warehousing and logistics and fulfillment costs go down, And then the second one we bought was another clothing company called West, and they're more Calgary based. And
I think I've seen a West before. So
yeah. And so now, we can bring these communities, we can introduce them to our custom program, we can offer more choices to our custom clients. If they want the premium Canadian made, they have Local Laundry. If their budget doesn't meet the requirements, or they just need a low budget shirt, we have another option for them, and it just kind of opens up the doors.
So when you're looking at these companies, like, how do you value them? Like, how do you come up with that number, and how does that conversation go? Do you just walk into their store and say, hey, my name's Connor, I'm from local laundry? Like, how do you find them? And then once you find them, how does that conversation start, where you're like, you got to pick a number and you got to kind of make him happy and make you happy, and it's got to make sense? Like, where do you come up with that value, and how do you even start the conversation?
Yeah, it's a lot like this, just reaching out, sending them a direct message. A lot of small clothing companies, we've become friends with all of them throughout the years because, we all share similar struggles, and it's just about keeping in touch, and you just kind of plant the seed saying, hey, if you're ever looking to get out of the clothing game, we'd love to have a chat and see if there's something, we're in the business of buying other clothing companies right now, and you just kind of keep in touch and check in and see how things are going. And to be honest, a lot of small business owners are burnt out right now. They want to get off the roller coaster ride. They want to go back to the 9 to 5. They want that job security, and that's fine, because business is hard. It's an emotional roller coaster. There's a lot of ups and downs, and if you're a solo entrepreneur, it can be very lonely. You're working your butt off, working 9, 10, 12-hour days, and for little to no reward when the economy is in a tough spot and rising prices, and it just seems like everything's against you. So you have these conversations, and then you take a look at their numbers, and what would it then it becomes negotiation, and what would it take to reach that number? What would it look like? What's the timeline? And some deals don't work, and that's fine, and we still remain friends, but others you find a way, and you got to give a little. And
is there much cash switching hands, or is it mostly equity, or how does the structure look?
It all depends. So the types that we like are asset purchases. So instead of taking over shares, taking on any liabilities that they might have, we just prefer to purchase the assets outright. That's the any trademarks they have, the inventory, the social media, the branding, that kind of thing. And some deals, every deal is unique. Right, and it really all depends on the value of the business.
Yeah. And so why do you take the assets opposed to buying the shares? What's the reasoning behind that?
We just don't want to take on any outstanding liability. So we essentially create a new company that buys the assets, and that becomes the company that we buy. And our local laundry owns that company. Sure. If you were to take over like the shares of the company, you assume any liabilities. So if anything was outstanding from 4 or 5 years ago, any debts or anything, then you'd be responsible.
A little safer then.
It's a little safer, yeah.
Okay. So Lulu was started in Canada, wasn't it?
Lululemon? Lululemon is a fascinating story. So Chip Wilson, the founder of Lululemon, he grew up here in Calgary. He went to high school here. He was a swimmer at UFC. Yeah, he is a very, very unique individual. And then you're from Calgary, or you're from Carson, but you kind of grew up here?
Yeah, around here.
Do you remember Chip and, what was it? West Beach. Do you remember West Beach shorts?
I do, actually. Yeah, I think I had some.
So that was him. He started by hawking like swim shorts and board shorts on the middle of Stephen Ave in like January, February, minus 30.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then he sold that, and he moved out west, started Lululemon, and Lululemon's been blown up. He's been pushed out, like he's not involved with Lululemon anymore. But fascinating. He's got a great book. If you're in retail, you're in clothing, highly recommend reading his book. He's a fascinating guy.
What's the book called?
Black Stretchy Pants. So he got in a lot of trouble for making certain comments about customers who would purchase his pants, and then so he made a joke about it when he and like the cover of the book is him wearing these really tight Lululemon leggings.
So he used to make everything in Canada, right?
He did, yeah.
And I remember buying Lulu, back when it was just first starting, and that was some of the highest quality clothing I've ever worn.
Get this, so I was at a garage sale or like a community cleanup in my area like a month or two ago, and it's just a pile of clothes just sitting there free to take, and I found some vintage Lululemons that were made in Canada. They must have been 15, 20 years old if they were a day. And these things, the quality, that they lasted, and I wear them almost every night. They're my favorite sweatpants. But now you go, and it's and he mentions this in his book, when a company goes public, the CEO and upper management team manage the share price, right? And so they make short-term decisions that are better for quick financial gain for the share price in the short term, but that are poor decisions for the long term, especially product wise. So a lot of corners get cut, a lot of production gets moved overseas to make it cheaper, faster, more efficient.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, the clothes aren't the same as what they used to be. I think one of the saddest days I've ever had was I used to have a gym bag. I used to have like 3 or 4 pairs of like the old vintage Lulus and the old vintage shirts and pants and everything, and then my truck got broken into and it got stolen, and I was like, that stuff's just not replaceable anymore.
Yeah, you don't even care about the truck. It's that stuff, you could not break it. It would not wear out. It was amazing.
I would have paid like 5x. Like if someone came to me right now and they're like, you could buy your old gym clothes back, like $500 for a pair of pants, I'd probably be like, give me like 10 of those.
Yeah.
So as soon as it went public, though, I knew right away, and that's why I had so many gym clothes, because as soon as it went public, I was like, I better stock up, because they're probably sending this manufacturing somewhere else.
And that's what happens, unfortunately.
So tell me about that, because I just got back from Thailand a little while ago, and in Bangkok, it's like the garment district, it seems like. And when you walk around in Bangkok, I would go maybe about 10 o'clock or so, the streets would be empty, and then about 11 or 12 o'clock, you should go over there. The streets just are filled, like the streets people drive in, with just garments of all kinds.
I've been. I got a suit, tie suit in my closet and everything, and the shirts, and they make great stuff over there.
Yeah, I asked him, why are you guys selling stuff at 2 a.m.? And apparently the guy, I don't know if this is true or not, you'll have to let me know, but he's like, because we sweat too much in the day.
Yes.
And so we do everything at night, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, because we can move all these clothes around without getting our sweat on it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I had no idea. That's, it's a whole economy in the middle of the night. It was the craziest thing.
That's what they do. They sleep during the day and then work at night, because it's cooler.
And I should put a picture in the comments. At about 4 or 5 in the morning, they have these little tiny Toyota trucks with like probably 10 or 15 feet of just clothing just piled up on the truck.
Yeah.
And 2 or 3 like Thai guys just trying to hold the clothes in the truck. And they're doing like 30, 40 miles an hour. I'm just thinking, you guys are going to fall off and break your neck or something. But so why, I think you might have already answered this, but why don't you go over to Thailand or Vietnam or one of those garment district type places? What's the reason that you decided to stay in Canada? Thanks for watching the Jeff Ball Show. If you own a business in the Rocky Mountain region and you want to have your business featured on our show, we're trying to reach over 100,000 viewers in the next year. So if you want to be on the show, reach out to us on Instagram at the Jeff Ball Show, and hopefully we can get together and do a free podcast shoot for you and get you some free exposure. Onto the show.
Yeah, I thought it was really important, because we were called Local Owner, to support local Canadian manufacturing. That stat I shared earlier about the lack of or the decline of the Canadian textile industry. Like, we used to have a fantastic garment and textile industry. Like Alberta and Edmonton. Edmonton used to be one of the biggest producers of denim in all of North America. At one point, more denim was coming out of Edmonton than the whole state of California. Do you remember GW jeans? I
don't think I do, no.
That they were a big jean factory in Edmonton that got bought by Levi's and moved overseas. Anyways, so we looked at it and we were selling all these stores, and we saw that, as companies grow, it was just a race to the bottom of how you can make your product for cheaper, faster, more efficient, reduce the quality, higher profit margins. And that just never really sat right with us, because we're going to lose if it's a price to the bottom, because we're the smallest guy on the totem pole, and so we have to be able to compete on something that's not price. And so we decided to do what none of the big guys could do, which was, let's compete on story, let's compete on quality, let's compete on a mission. And that's why we decided to switch to all Canadian manufacturing. From the very get-go, our sweaters went from $60 to $100 overnight, and everyone thought we were crazy. Everyone thought it was the dumbest idea ever. But we thought, if no one's doing it, it sets us apart, and it gives us a point of differentiation, and ultimately it's going to give us a better garment that's better for the environment and that will last longer, but also it'll have a impact on the Canadian economy. It'll support manufacturing made by strict Canadian labor and environmental laws. It'll reduce our carbon footprint. I just saw win. you know?
Yeah, I should actually set you up with another guy I interviewed. So he might have even been with GW Jeans or something, because he sold a jean company I think he sold it for $23 million. This was about 10 years ago. He's telling me this story. His name is Del Zemp. He also started Log Creek Whisper Homes.
Oh, okay. That name sounds kind of familiar.
But what he did was when Russia was kind of in that transitioning period after the Cold War, they wanted anything that signaled freedom.
Yeah.
And so he was taking jeans from the local manufacturers in Alberta, even used jeans, and shipping them to Russia. And he said he couldn't keep them in stock in Russia for long enough. And he said he would like up the price. He'd buy them here for like 10 or 20 bucks, and they'd sell for like 150 in Russia.
No way.
And he said no matter how many planes he could fill, as soon as a plane would land, the Russians would just empty them. They just wanted something that signaled like capitalism and freedom and everything after the Cold War. I thought that was a really cool story. Yeah, I'll connect you with him.
That'd be great.
He was in the jeans and clothing business in Alberta, just like you, for like 10 years. So
it's just, a lot of our customers were really, really in support of it, and they stuck with us. You know, these companies that we're acquiring now, they're not all Canadian made. So now we do have a range, but local laundry will always be Canadian made and be a big part of our ethos and you know, part of the premium quality that we want to offer.
Is Canada really good at making garments or something, or what's the difference between Canadian and Vietnam? Or like, obviously Lulu had a wicked difference, but like what is the difference?
It's a couple of things. So first and foremost, it's going to be the fit. So when you're dealing with manufacturers and factories overseas, one, they're extra small, medium, large. Their size templates are for a different build of a person than North American, right? Their medium over there is a lot smaller than our medium over here. So there's kind of that aspect first. So, you know, when you're manufacturing here in Canada, it's Canadians that know the market, that know the end customer. They're able to build and manufacture something that a Canadian would want, and it would work well for a Canadian. And again, this is just pretty broad. But the second thing is, in countries like Southeast Asia, Vietnam, China, there are so many factories. It's a very saturated market in terms of factories and people that are willing to cut and sew and create clothing. And so what that happens is they compete on price. And so they're constantly trying to win as much business as possible by being the lowest cost producer. And how do you become the lowest cost producer is by cutting corners. So they're constantly trying to find ways to make a garment for cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, which just drives the quality down, you know? And so those two things, I mean, and you can find great manufacturers, you can find great factories. Like, there's some stuff in China that is top quality. There's no question about it. But we wanted to work with manufacturers that knew the Canadian market, that understood the Canadian market, that weren't willing to cut corners, you know, that were willing to go all the way. But also for us to have a relationship with them. Most of our manufacturers are in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. We get on a 2-3 hour plane, 4 hours at most, and we can go meet the manufacturer owners. We can go inspect the clothing firsthand, inspect the facilities. We can have a real relationship. Whereas the manufacturers overseas, they don't even speak the same language. And it's really hard to have that quality control, have that relationship, and to be making sure that the clothing is being made under ethical conditions, that certain criteria are being met, and so on and so forth.
So tell us about that supply chain. Like, you're in Calgary, you want to create a new sweater or something. How does that work? Do you go over to Montreal? Do you inspect the sweater and everything and then put your brand on it? Like, tell us about from the time somebody puts an order in at your shop to when you deliver it. Explain the supply chain to us.
Yeah, so we don't own any of the manufacturing or decorating. We work with partners all across the country. So a lot of our manufacturers are second, third generation, family-run businesses. They've been making T-shirts for close to 100 years, and they know how to make a really good T-shirt. Like, they got the family secrets and everything. This stuff, for us to make a T-shirt or a sweater better than them, it would take years and years and years. So we work with these manufacturers. We tell them kind of what we want. We want a hoodie, we want a sweater, we want this. They create it, they send us samples. They're doing as much as they can. They're owning all the process. So the dyeing, the knitting, the milling, the cutting, the sewing. Like, the only thing that's not done in Canada is the cotton isn't grown here, and that's because cotton can't be grown in Canada.
Oh, okay.
But they're getting the raw cotton in, they're milling it, they dye it, they cut it, they sew it, they print it. And so we work with these manufacturers to get a cut that we like, to get a fabric that we like. You know, we do sample after sample after sample until we get something that we like, that we think that our customers will like. And then from there, we put our labels in it. We take it to the decorators, get it decorated, and then we sell it to the end consumer.
Okay. So it sounds like a lot of your business is just making sure your brand is solid, eh?
Yeah. That's a big part of what we do is the branding and marketing, the telling of the story of these manufacturers, right? Telling the story of what sets them apart, the quality that's there, you know, the 100 years of family secrets going into building these clothing. You know, it's telling the story of the power of what our clothing has. You know, every day we wake up and make a conscious or subconscious decision about how we want to be perceived by what we decide to wear.
There's nothing better than a good sweater. Eh?
Yeah.
Especially in Canada.
Yeah. Like when you have a thick, heavyweight cotton sweater that's, you know, like your good Lululemon stuff, it just makes you feel more confident. It makes you feel happier compared to when you're wearing something cheap that's maybe itchy or scratchy. It's you know, how we choose what to wear affects our mood, affects how we are perceived by others, and affects how we connect and bond with other people in the community.
Sure. Yeah. Even relationships and stuff. It's like the boyfriend sweater or the girlfriend's scarf or whatever. You know, it's interesting how you can kind of put emotion on clothes. Eh?
Right. And we don't really think about it, but if you were to stop and think about it and go through your closet like that, I'm sure your closet is just filled with these different pieces of clothing that elicit one memory or another. And you feel different depending on, you know, if you were to pop on a suit, you know, I bet you got some nice suits in your closet. You feel one way with that versus, you know, a nice pair of jeans and a shirt to go out to dinner, you know, like it's.
And clothing seems like one of those things that people use to associate with like the luxury brands and stuff. Like I'm going to a fashion show and it's at Ferrari of Alberta.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that it's like clothing is always paired with like something like Ferrari or, you know, it's interesting that happens. So are you going for the luxury market then? Like you were talking about Dior and Louis Vuitton and all those. Is that the space you're going in? Or
No, we definitely want to go after the local market, and the category we put ourselves in is the premium. Right. Okay. So it would kind of go luxury, premium, casual, you know, so living somewhere in between the casual and premium space, you know, luxury and ultra high end luxury is a whole different ball game. It's a whole different ball game. But, you know, we want to be a community of that's successful to everyone. We don't want to be an exclusive community or, you know, you got to be in this tax bracket in order to be part of our community. Now I'll say like our Canadian made clothes, it's expensive, right? But it's stuff that's going to last. And when you calculate the cost per wear of how long the stuff is going to last you and what you're going to pay each time you wear it compared to something that you get for cheap, but it disintegrates after you wash it a couple of times.
I think that's my favorite position for clothing company is like the premium because it almost seems like, and you probably know way more about this than I do, but it almost seems like the Gucci's and the Louis Vuittons almost went so far luxury that they degraded their quality on purpose. Yeah. And they're trying to almost do this weird thing where it's like our brand is so strong that we can sell complete shit.
We can throw it on anything.
And people will still wear it. Yeah. Like, have you noticed that? Like
100%.
I don't dabble in those markets too much, but I bought like a couple Gucci shirts for my son just for like an event that he went to. And when I was looking at those shirts, I was like, this is like garbage. This stuff is junk.
Yeah.
And it's like, in my opinion, it's almost like their brand is like they're spending so much money on the advertising portion that it's almost like a flex in a weird way where it's like, you know what? We went like super premium and now we're selling complete garbage just with the word Gucci on it or Louis Vuitton.
And people will still buy it.
People will still buy it. Yeah. And it's like a weird kind of flex where it's like their brand is so strong they can sell like $2 shirts instead of the premium thing. So I had to go back to the premium stuff because I was like, you know what? Like these clothes are just way better. They're the new like high luxury stuff isn't even comfortable.
No.
I shouldn't say this before going to that fashion show. So tell me about, are you comfortable with talking about the numbers at all or like margins and stuff like that? Some people don't want to, and that's totally understandable if you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk about margins. And,
okay.
and
so what kind of margins are we looking at with this with the clothing? Like, do you expect 40% gross
Yeah.
margins? Is that kind of where you need to be?
Yeah. So traditional keystone margin, when you're selling in retail, is whatever it costs you to produce something, you want to retail price it for 4x.
Okay.
Right? Now with Canadian made, that makes it a little bit difficult. It's more like 3x. So yeah,
Okay.
we're shooting for, on the e-commerce side, a 40 to sometimes 50. Some items we can get as high as 60.
So does that mean, like, if you buy something for $10, you need to sell it for 40? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
And
So when you buy something for 10 and you got to sell it for 40, tell us what happens with that $30. How much of that do you want to spend on marketing? How much of that do you need to spend on keeping your shop open, your store open? Tell us a little bit about the money that you need to spend to make sure that you can maintain that 4x margin kind of thing, or 4x price.
Yeah, and I'll admit, my business partner, he's more the numbers guy, so I'm not too strong on it. But it seems like when you're selling something for $10 and selling it for 40, it seems like, oh man, you make a lot of money. But when you go into how much it costs to market, like you said, the cost to spend on digital advertising, Facebook ads, that kind of thing. For every $10 item, you're probably spending $5-6 at least in digital marketing. And then you have salary, and then you have overhead, then you have shipping, then you have decorating. All these things kind of add up pretty quickly. And that's where a lot of clothing companies get themselves into trouble, because they see this margin and they sell a couple of pieces and they think they're doing great, but you really, really have to be careful. And the bad side that is really difficult with e-commerce and retail is you're buying, sure, a unit is $10, but in order to get that unit price at $10, you have to be buying 100 or 1,000, and you got to carry that. Right. And you got to pay the manufacturers up front, and you got to float that cash. And now you're buying it all in bulk, but you're selling it piecemeal, one at a time. Or if you sell in a retail, they might take half of that 1,000 units, but now they want net 30 terms, net 60 terms, 90, net 120. And then they pay you by check. And so by the time you've paid your manufacturer, it could be 3 months before you get paid for those goods. Or you have these goods sitting on your shelves for a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
And so that's where a lot of clothing companies really get stuck, is all their money's tied up in inventory.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs make that mistake, because it seems like such a large amount of money. Oh, I buy it for 10, I sell it for 40.
Yeah, easy.
But how much do you make at the end of the day? Like, what do you expect to make $4 off that $40 sale at the end of the day, or is it $10, or what do you expect?
If you can crank out anywhere from $5 to $10, like a 10 to 20%, bottom line gross, that's a great day.
Yeah. And even the carrying costs, interest rates right now, I imagine 10% to carry something like that for a year, right? So
yeah,
you carry that for 2 years. That's
why we run really lean. We've never taken on any investors. We don't have any long-term debt to service. None of that, because that's why a lot of small businesses are struggling. It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
The rising prices of everything, the cost of everything, cost of shipping has gone through the roof, cost of labor has gone up, and then you have rising interest rates. It's like, it's no wonder people want to get off this roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it's been tough the last few years for small businesses.
But that's where I think there's also the opportunity.
Yeah.
I see a lot of opportunity times like this. Never waste a good crisis. Whoa. Is that this one?
I'm not sure. There we go.
What was that?
Just the timer there. How do you start the timer again? No. How much time do we have left? Or we're at an hour in?
Almost an hour here.
An hour?
2 right now. So
Okay. How do I start that again? That was
I didn't
kind
know
of
that
handy.
did that. Oh, excellent.
There we go. All right, let me read through some of my questions here. I don't think I've got to any of them. I do want to get to some emotional questions, just to inject some emotion into it. You talked about the Thailand stuff. Brand. Do you have any employees?
Yeah.
Employees? Okay, I want to talk about that too. So one thing that I'm always curious about is your best day and your worst day. So what was your best day in business? What was the most happy time? And walk us through that day.
Probably the best day was last year. Or maybe it was 2 years ago. We landed a massive deal. Massive deal. Like this company wanted to buy 5,000 t-shirts, 2,000 hats, and 1,000 fanny packs.
Wow.
Like at Canadian made prices. It was like a multiple six-figure deal, which, we're not doing like crazy numbers. We're still growing, but that in one deal, like we brought in more revenue in one deal than we did in like 3 months.
So was that just a cold call off of the?
That was a relationship,
Okay.
where you start small by selling a guy 20 shirts at a time, then maybe it goes 100, and then he needs 50 for this event, 50 here, and then 3 years later, oh hey, we're launching this big new campaign, and we need clothing for everyone. And it's like, okay, it's go time. I'm a sales guy, so I used to do all our sales. So I love, closing a big deal. There's no better feeling in the world.
And did you close it? Did everything go okay?
Yeah. Now, recently we've had a couple of other like really significant six-figure deals that we've lost, and that's never good. We have one more that's a pretty decent sized six-figure deal. So for 3,000 Canadian made mittens, and so when you close one of those, I've told our team, like, we close another six-figure deal, we're all going to Caesars for steaks, and we're gonna go celebrate, because one of those, you get a couple of those and they'll make your year.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the gravel crushing business, it was just 2 or 3 clients a lot of the time that made like all of the money, and everybody else was almost a break even kind of thing.
Yeah, and so you get some of those. So the days where we've landed some of those, I mean, I'm just on a higher level, because you're going through the whole year with all this financial stress. Are we going to make it? How much money are we coming in? Do we have enough to pay, make payroll, all this? And then you land a big deal like that, and it's like, oh, like, I think we're going to be okay, and then you have to service that deal.
How did the mitten deal come through? The 3,000 mittens. How do you get something like that? That's a lot of mittens. Is that like a store in the mall or something selling mittens, or?
No, this is a really cool opportunity, and like I said, we haven't gotten it yet. We probably won't get it, but it's all just through connections, through people that you stay connected with. And this was through a government employee that a trade commissioner that is just there to help companies export and grow and find ways that they can get government support. And the embassy in the U.S. was looking to make mittens as a gift for all the newly elected members of Congress this coming November. I don't remember if you remember the last U.S. election with Bernie Sanders. There was a picture of him gone viral with mittens.
I definitely remember that. That was everywhere for a while.
Yeah, so the Canadian embassy in the U.S. want to create mittens that that share the story of Canada and U.S. and kind of like the old roots, like 2012 Vancouver mittens, and so they want to make mittens that are made in Canada as a gift to all of the newly elected members of Congress.
I wonder if that meme had anything to do with it. It probably did.
It did. That's what they said. That's why they want to do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. So if the deal goes through, it's a pretty significant deal. But every single U.S. member of Congress will have a pair of our mittens.
Oh man, that would be pretty
which
cool.
is pretty cool.
That would probably snowball too.
Hopefully,
if
yeah.
they were decent mittens,
but
and everything.
and because it's the government of Canada, it has to be made in Canada. But
Yeah.
they're pretty price sensitive. So
Okay.
mittens crossed. We sent off the samples today, and so if they like them.
So tell us how that procurement works. Is it because of government? Do they have to get 2 or 3 prices from 2 or 3 people?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, so they have their criteria. The biggest criteria was it has to be made in Canada. And the second criteria is going to be price. And so it was very difficult for them to find manufacturers that could bid on it and that could produce in Canada. So we're one of 2. And so I think our pricing was somewhat similar, or I expect our pricing is maybe a little bit higher. And so it'll come down to we're basically having a sample off. So we've both made samples. We're sending them to the team, and whichever one they like best, that's the one they're going to make.
That's the one they're going to go.
Yeah.
It's too bad sometimes they wouldn't give half and half or something. Hey, but I know the government. I work for the government too, and I've lost deals over like 10 cents before, multi-million-dollar deals. So
Yeah. It's
crazy.
tough. So that would probably be the best day, or yeah, it's always you get a big order, or like there's other days when you just launch a big campaign and you're getting the pings on your phone. Like when we launched that Jasper campaign, your phone is just blowing up and it just won't stop buzzing, and you're just going, holy smokes. That's a really cool feeling too, because that just every notification, every buzz represents a person out there willing to support you and willing to believe in your cause, and that's a really warming feeling as well. It's really cool.
So, what about your worst day?
I mean, worst day for me is you mess up a big order, you know, or something goes wrong. You disappoint a client. You have someone upset. You know, there's a couple of times. Probably one of my worst days was a year, 2 years ago. You know, we're sitting with our accountant, kind of going through the numbers, and going like, "Look, guys, this is not good. The last couple of months have been very bad, and if this were to continue, like, you guys got like 60 days to turn this around before we need to start making some really hard decisions." And that always sucks to hear.
Yeah,
you know,
those are the tough days. I had a few of those too. Yeah.
I think we all do, but how you decide to react with them is what sets you apart. You know, you can sit and waddle in misery and go, "Oh, this sucks. I'm so stupid. And what am I going to do?" Or you go like, "You know what? Screw this. I'm not giving up." And I use it as fuel. And what do you do when something like that happens? Well, you sit down, you pick up the phone, and you don't get up until you get what you need. And I made a goal to call 100 people a day. And I made 100 calls a day until we weren't in that situation anymore.
Yeah. So how many days were you able to keep that pace? That'd be tough, 100 calls a day.
You figure it out. I mean, if your business is on the line, like 100 calls is nothing. Yeah. You figure it out, right? And you call everyone in your Rolodex. You call everyone who's ever even uttered the word local laundry. And so, but you know what? After a month, 2 months of that, we had made enough sales to get us out of the hole. Cool. And then we ended up in the positive, you know, and so that was a really cool feeling when it's like, okay, you know, we're hitting pretty low. We're not quite at rock bottom, but we're getting there. Can we turn this around? So do you guys do your own books, or do you have a bookkeeper, or how do you work with the accounting? It was we had like a fractional CFO. And they were the ones that sat us down. And how quickly did he sit you down? I interview a lot of people that are like, we thought we were doing good, and then we went like a year, and turns out we weren't doing good. Yeah. So we, you know, prior to that, our books weren't really in order, and that's kind of the biggest piece for entrepreneurs is really understand your numbers. It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's not where your passion lies. But if it's the lifeblood of your business, and you need money for your mission, and if you got no money, you got no mission, you got no business. So you have to understand them. And so our books and numbers were all over the place, and that's why we hired this person to come in, clean everything up. And because it's like flying a plane without any instruments, without knowing your speed, where you're going, what the wind is. How can you fly it or land a plane? You can't, right? You're just flying with your eyes closed. And so, it was after they got it and cleaned things up. And
it seems like for people who haven't started a business before, it always seems like that should be such a like easy thing to do, but keeping track of your numbers is actually pretty difficult. It's hard because life gets in the way. You know, you're getting 20 phone calls. Hey, where's my order? Or what's this? And oh, shoot, we got to order this, and we got to get this printed. And like, there's 1,000 little things that kind of add up, and your numbers go, I'll just do it tomorrow. But when I was running crushers, it was, I would do them at the end of the year. And I remember I'd have this big stack of invoices that I needed to put in, and I could just see the number, every invoice just go down a little. It was just disheartening the whole time. But I think a lot of people actually screw their businesses up just by not knowing their numbers, mostly because it's like if you have overhead or you have sales or you have like some big bonus or something you're paying and you're selling at like 3x instead of 4x, you could sell for multiple months or multiple quarters at a loss without even really knowing it. You know? So, but one thing that I always like to ask everybody is, what piece of accepted knowledge or common knowledge do you hear a lot from other business people that in your mind you're kind of like, I don't know if that's true or not, or that hasn't been my experience? Have you ever been in a position where you're kind of like, maybe that's not so true, or at least not in my business? You know, one thing that kind of is a pet peeve for me is when you ask business owners like, hey, what's going on? How are things? Oh, busy. Busy. Yeah. Oh, just so busy. It's like, okay, we're all busy. You know, I hate being busy for busy sake. You know, I think being busy isn't profitable. Like if you can find
10,000 things to do in a day in your business, and you could work like a dog for 12 hours, but do all those things actually move your business ahead. And so the most successful people I know they're working on the right things. They're not doing busy work. And we get so caught up in that all the time. So if you're a business owner and you're an entrepreneur, stop being busy. Start focusing on doing the right things. Right?
So what are the right things? Like, what are the top 3 things you think are the most important?
There's a great book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, and it's about building your business into a system as if it was a franchise, as if you're writing a manual to give to some random person that can come off the street and run the business just as well as you can. It's about building that machine, turning your business into a machine, and eventually removing yourself out of the business, that your business actually grows without you. And you have to be working on your business, not in your business.
Okay.
Right? So if you're a baker, if you're just sitting around baking pies all day, you're not working on your business. You're not a business owner, you're not an entrepreneur, you're an employee. Right? But if you're working on your business, if you're building systems, you're building processes, you're training people the right way, you're building that manual, you're hiring people, that's working on your business. But if you're just sitting around, or not sitting around, but working, baking pies all day, your business is never going to go anywhere. And that's where we can kind of get hung up. Like, for example, I've always been the sales guy, closing custom sales, doing business development, bringing sales in, working with our production team. But when I do that, I'm not actually growing the business. I'm just sustaining the business. And it's going to be the exact same place this year as it will be next year. And so this year was the first kind of year where we really took a step back and we hired a sales team. And now I support the sales team. I don't take on any deals. I still out doing business development, help where I can. But being able to step away from sales allows me to focus on growing the business. And little tiny things, like, for example, today I built a vacation request form. That's not fun. That's not sexy. Like, that's not what I'm passionate about. But it's important to lay out processes like that, build stuff like that, so you have a machine, so you can track, vacation days, sick days, all this sort of thing, so that you can grow your business effectively. Right?
So how did you hire your sales team? What was your process to get the right sales team? Did you make any mistakes there, do you think?
I'm not, I haven't really hired before. So 2 things that I heard that and having a good group of mentors around you is really, really key. Having people, that have been through the ring yourself, like yourself, is absolutely key. Find people that are smarter than you, more successful than you, and ask them questions. So I went to my mentors and went to a bunch of people who've hired and asked them. 2 things that I got. So one, when it comes to sales, don't hire one salesperson.
Okay.
Always hire 2. And I had a fight with my business partner about this. He's like, we can't even afford to hire one salesperson. How can we afford to hire 2? You want to hire 2 because salespeople are naturally competitive.
Okay.
Right? So if you just hire 1, they'll probably do a good job, but maybe they'll find a pace that kind of suits them and their lifestyle. But if you hire 2 and you start tracking their activity, their deal flow, their close sales, and salespeople are just naturally competitive. So they're going to want to outdo one another. They're going to want to compete with it in a friendly, in a professional way, right? And it was shocking. It's so true. So we hired 2 salespeople, and they have almost like a sibling rivalry where it's like, who's going to win this week? Who's going to win this week? We have a sales competition, and they just make each other better, which is really cool. The second thing that I did when hiring is I made a job posting, and I was told to do this where in the job posting on Indeed, at the very bottom of the job description, put in big caps, do not apply to this job. Here's how to apply to this job. Don't apply on Indeed. Send me an email at this email address with this subject line, and either send me a 300-word document on the last book you read or a 2-minute video on how to unclog a sink.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right? So automatically, the first thing it's going to weed out is people who don't have attention to detail. Because if you can't read a whole job description and see in big bold caps at the bottom, don't apply to this job on Indeed, they're probably not going to be a good fit. You need someone who's got attention to detail. The second thing is so that's the first test. The second test is anyone can go into ChatGPT and 300 words for a book, or even write 300 books. It's easy. It's safe. It's not that hard, right? It'll take you 15 minutes. But to create a video of yourself, to put yourself out there, it can be a little intimidating. But then how do you send an email? How do you send a video over email, right? You have to stop and think. It's not something you do every day. So it showcases your problem solving skills. So all these add up. It weeds out, for this just sales position, we had like 200-300 people apply, and you can't go through 200 resumes. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So they almost self-select. They weed themselves out. Gone are the people who don't read the full thing. Gone are the people who just submit a book, and you just focus on the people that submitted a video.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then you interview them, and then who's going to be...
So how many people submitted a video?
5.
So you went from several hundred down to 5. Wow.
And then it's like, okay, this kid's in high school. I like you. You got spunk, but like not going to work. I need someone full time. And then you just like, who's going to be the best cultural fit?
That's so interesting because the resume, everybody pays so much attention to the resume, but most people that I know are like, yeah, you got to submit a resume, but we really decide based on this other thing.
Yeah. And so like, it's a lot of work to make a video of yourself and to film yourself. And then you get to see their creative side. Like some people had slides and transitions, and some people took more natural approach. Some people were funny,
Cool.
Yeah.
So how are you compensating them? Is it commission based or
It's
what?
commission based. So another rule of thumb was that I heard, so one of our mentors say that, what your base salary, you want the base salary to be something that they can't really live off. That's like, it's above minimum wage. It's a half decent wage, but it's not something that they'd be able to earn a decent living off. So that way their compensation, their commission is really structured around, got to get out there. I got to close deals because my base isn't enough to cover everything.
Do you have expectations for how much they work or how many sales they make? Like, how do you keep them motivated? Have you ever had one yet that just kind of takes the base and doesn't do much? Or
no, because if they take the base, like it isn't that much. It's not that much to live off. So it keeps them kind of hungry. It keeps them driven, right? And so we have a weekly quota that we hit. This is our target that we have to hit. This is the margin that we have to hit. If we get this goal, we'll all go out for lunch. If we hit this target, we'll get this. If we hit this target, if we get a 6-figure deal, we'll all go out for steaks, little things, and then plus having the two of them, it keeps them competitive as well.
And how much freedom do you give them? Do you say as long as you get 4X, you can make the sale?
Yep.
Do they have complete freedom? Can they go down to a certain number?
Yeah, we give them a baseline margin. You can sell down to this price. The lower price it goes, the less commission it is. But feel free to go on this commission. There's some deals where I'm going to step in and say, like, this is a big order. I really want this. We don't typically like to go below this margin, but we will. You have my approval. And that kind of thing. But ultimately, like, I don't care what time you show up. I don't care what time you leave. Is the work getting done? Or are you closing sales? Like, sales is the biggest. It's the best job because the results are black and white. Are you bringing in money or are you not?
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of time. A month or 2, 3 months to kind of get people up to speed. And what we did, we first laid out, say, look, in order to justify your salary, this is how much revenue you each have to be bringing in. And it was kind of a big number. They're going, oh, geez. And they were really stressed out and worried about that. But within 2 months, they were both hitting that, and they were hitting that in stride every month.
And how do they make their sales? Is it mostly in the office or do they drive around a lot to
A little bit of both. So they'll do client visits, but they'll bring people into the warehouse. Clothing is such a tactile experience. They have to come in, they have to feel it, they have to experience it, they got to try it on, sizes, that kind of thing. But it's a lot of calls. It's a lot of, the flywheel that we've built is people know our brand because of the e-commerce. They see us on social media. They see me doing stuff like this. And then, so they see this stuff we're doing out in the community. So then they come to us to say, hey, I really like what you did, or I bought one of your Jasper tees, and now I need 100 shirts for this community event or for Christmas. And so we'll bring them into the warehouse, show them different options, the different price range, give them an estimate.
How do you deal with if they're doing like calls, if they have to drive somewhere or something? Do you pay them any money for driving their vehicle? Do they have a company truck?
No company vehicle, but if we'll pay for their gas and lunch and that kind of thing. So
sure,
it's and again, like, we haven't. This is the first time managing a sales team, so I'm constantly learning and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. But But man, it's really cool when they land a big sale and you get to be part of that, and you're pumped and they're pumped, and then the whole team wins. And
Sure. So do they do just sales, or do you have a different team for marketing, or do they do marketing as well?
no,
or how do you work
they're
that?
just sales. So my role now is becoming more business development. So my ideal time is spent growing the business in terms of like building the internal processes and systems. Half the time doing that, and half the time being business development, doing stuff like this, getting out there, bringing in people, and then passing them off to the sales team. And then we have a social media person.
Okay, so if let's say you run a Facebook ad or something like that, and you want to sell a bunch of T-shirts, your Jasper shirts or something, and somebody calls into the office and says, "Hey, I want 1,000 of these Jasper T-shirts," and the sales guy picks that call up, does he get commission on that then?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have a different portal where they're not a part of the process or of the cut kind of thing.
Yeah. So if all the sales that come in, any leads that goes to the sales team, we don't give commission if someone like sells one shirt online.
Oh, okay.
It's only through custom deals.
And have you made any Facebook ads, or do you do any of that kind of marketing?
Yeah. So now we have our own digital agency, that specializes in clothing, but we're only running ads on our e-commerce offering. So on the T-shirts that you see online. Right. And that's building awareness. So, and then once they buy a shirt, we can kind of see who they are. We can pitch them custom clothing if they need it. But all our ads are mostly based for e-commerce.
And is it Facebook, or tell us about your marketing, what you found there? Is it Facebook the best still, or Instagram, or where have you found success, and where can you guide us away from?
Yeah, we're still figuring out when it comes to digital ads, Facebook and Instagram are still key. They're still king. That's where a lot, we haven't tapped out those platforms. It's best to really focus in on one platform when it comes to digital ads and that kind of thing. But then we do a lot of organic content as well. And so I post a lot on TikTok. Excuse me. So I'll make a video, like a reel or something, post it on TikTok, and then use a tool called repurpose.io that pushes that piece of content to every other platform: LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Threads.
Oh, okay.
You name it. So you create 3-4 of those videos a day. It's not just living on one platform, but it's getting pushed to 5-6 platforms. And sometimes a video will do well on one platform, it won't do anything on another, and you just kind of see what works and what doesn't work.
And have you found a platform that works the best, or just all of them? Or
you know what? I think for what we do, LinkedIn and TikTok are the best.
Those are the two. Eh?
LinkedIn is an underutilized platform. First of all, it's the only platform where everyone with money is on LinkedIn. There's no one on LinkedIn that isn't business focused. So there are people that speak our language.
Yeah.
And so all the heavy hitters are on LinkedIn. It's the only other platform that people are encouraged to be on during working hours.
Oh, okay.
If your boss walks by and you're scrolling on LinkedIn, you're not going to get too upset, because it's all network and that kind of thing. The third thing with LinkedIn is that it's an underutilized platform for creating content, because the majority, I'd say 90% of people only post on LinkedIn, only create content when they get a new job or they get a promotion, right? And then, hey, congratulations, I'm so excited, so grateful for this. So people aren't creating business content for LinkedIn. And so if you can go on and create stuff like this, share insights, share tips, it can do really, really well. And so a lot of our big supporters have come from LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
And then you can use that platform to, hey, can you introduce me to this person at this company? We're trying to get in with this company, or I need help with this aspect of my business. Do you know anyone like this? It's if you want to go, if you're a small business owner and you're looking to make content and you want to grow your business, figure out what your biggest problem is, whether your biggest problem is sales, accounting, human resources. Identify what your biggest problem is and make a post on LinkedIn saying, this is my biggest problem, I need help, is there anyone that knows someone that can help? You will be shocked. Anytime we need anything. We moved into our warehouse not too far from here, and we didn't have any money for warehouse furniture. So I made a video saying, hey, we just got a new warehouse, but we have no money for warehouse furniture. Does anyone have any extra office furniture they can give us? People came out of the woodworks saying, I got chairs, I got a couch. Hey, do you need a table? I had an oil and gas company say, hey, we're getting rid of 3 floors. Come on down, take whatever you like, we'll deliver it to you.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. We went in, we're like, can I have a chair? And they're like, if you take a chair, you're taking 10 chairs. So we got like standing desks, we got boardroom tables.
Wow.
If you just ask for help, people are willing to help. People want to help, they don't know how to help. But if you give them an avenue, you can kind of be vulnerable and say like, I don't have all the answers. I need help with X or X. And you just make a post on LinkedIn, guarantee your business will be the better for it.
So LinkedIn and TikTok and LinkedIn are probably 2 of the most polar opposite platforms there are.
You'd think, but TikTok really does really well because it's all about being vulnerable and really, not the super high polished, Kim Kardashian, my life is perfect. TikTok is really all about being authentic, sharing your story, not being afraid to be vulnerable.
Okay.
And that's what does really well on LinkedIn. And as a small business owner, and as a business professional or anyone in general, believe it or not, that's what works really well on LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn is so bloated with, oh, I'm so happy about this promotion, or happy anniversary, happy 5-year work anniversary. It's there's not a lot of people being vulnerable and asking for help.
It's
on LinkedIn.
interesting though. That seems to be the key these days, is just to be like completely vulnerable, and more honest is better than less honest.
Yeah, because people don't buy products, they buy feelings, and they don't buy from companies, they buy from people.
Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and people want to help other people. They just sometimes don't know how.
Especially entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs are just dying to help people.
Right?
Seems
like I bet, if a young kid just finished university and wanted to start a business, and he called you and say, hey, can I ask you a couple questions? You'd be psyched.
Yeah. It happens so infrequently.
Yeah.
I would be like, yeah, let's do dinner at a really nice place, and I'll like come to bat for you big time.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And you would do that with a complete stranger. It's because we want to help, but we don't know how. And so if you just make it easy for people to help you, people will help you.
It's so weird that we have a bad reputation, it seems like. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, they just want money. And it's like, I know so many entrepreneurs, I don't think I know one that's like not willing to help, kind of thing.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs, we just want to be in control of our own lives, do our own thing. And money just happens to be a byproduct of that.
So what about your typical day? We only got about probably 15 or 20 minutes left, but
Sure.
I'm always interested, and I know it's so different, so just do your best. Like, what would a typical day of an entrepreneur that's in the clothing business look like? Like, you wake up at what time? What does your day look like? When do you go to bed? When are you kind of like, I'm done with this, I need to hit the gym?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Me, I'm a little different. So, I one of my favorite books of all time is the 5 a.m. Club. Robin Sharma. If you are a business owner and you say you don't have time for X, you're lying. Everyone has time if they get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So if you are, let's say you have a full-time job and you want to start your business, and you're going, I don't have enough time to grow my business because I got a full-time job. Okay, well, get up at 5 a.m. and work 3 hours before you go to your real job, and then do it right before bed. Like, you can work a full work day outside of working hours. So for me, I never have enough time to work out or exercise. So I get up at 5 a.m. and I go for a run, I go for a walk, 6 days a week. And I'm no Arnold Schwarzenegger, but just enough, just like 30, 40 minutes, get a light sweat on, clear the head, start the day off right. And then from there, I come home about 6, and then it's family time, just like getting the day going, getting the family going, that kind of thing, setting everyone else up for a successful day. And then I'm usually out the door by 8:30, get into the office hopefully for 9. Every day we have a 9:30 daily meeting just to get the whole team together, get everyone on the same page. What's the big things that's happening today? What's what do we have to focus on? What did we do yesterday? What's some good news from yesterday? How many deals did we close? How much did we bring in? A new thing that I'm trying to do is stack all my meetings on Monday. So all the one-on-ones, all the product meetings, production meetings, have them all in the one day, so I can just have a meeting day and then free up my rest of the week where I can just get work done and work on the business and dedicate it, get into a good flow, not be interrupted. That's why when we set this up, it's Friday afternoon. I'm not going to get any work done at 4:00 on a Friday. So it's like, hey, if I have to have a meeting with someone, let's have it on a Friday afternoon. So daily meeting, then about 10 o'clock, check email, make sure there's delegate this or that, make sure there's no fires to put out, and then really dive into about 2 or 3 tasks that I have to get done today. And usually that's creating a process. It's could be creating content. It could be making a phone call to a potential big deal, and then from there, it's checking in with the team, helping the sales team, see if they need anything, mentoring, one-on-ones, checking in on production, if, checking to make sure stuff's going to get out on time, putting out fires here or there, making sure, to post content, to send thank you emails, make phone calls. I don't know.
And so you wrap up around 5 o'clock or so?
Wrap up around 5 o'clock. It depends. I mean, I love the hours from 5 to 6:30 because emails stop coming in, phone calls stop coming in, people tend to go home, and you can just get another hour and a half of really solid uninterrupted work done.
Yeah, it seems like those hours are precious.
They are so precious.
Your phone quits ringing. And
you can just put
bugging
headphones
you.
on and say, I got to get this done. Building a proposal, something like that. Something that just requires your attention and focus.
So I notice a common theme with a lot of entrepreneurs. They're always like, I want to franchise this business kind of thing. The successful people always seems like they want to hand a book to somebody and be like, this is how you run this business. Here's the book, right? Yeah. Do you have a book? When you do these processes and stuff, do you are you trying to create a binder with all these processes in them? Yeah, that's the E-Myth. That's the Michael Gerber way, or EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. That's another great system that we utilize. Is you want to build a system because you don't want to be the go-to for everything. You don't want to build a team and we've had it happen where every 2 minutes, hey Connor, how do you do this? Hey Connor, where do you find this? Or Connor, if the thing is this size, should it be this? Or what's this? If you do that, you're just going to be going crazy. So you want to be building processes out where you remove yourself. And you say, and so the way I set it up is if I have someone ask me a question, say, hey Connor, how do you do this? I'll walk them through it and then I'll build a process for it. And then the next time they say, hey Connor, how do we do that thing again? Well, here's the process. We created it. I've made a video recording of me doing it. All the information's in there. And that takes time, right? That takes, process can take anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour and a half, 2 hours. And so, but you want to get to the point where you completely remove yourself. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually taking these processes and feeding into a chat GDP. So I'm building a local laundry GDP. So eventually get to the point where you can go, instead of asking me, you can just ask our chat bot and say hey, where's the vacation form? And it'll shoot you a link. I'm to the point now where if somebody's not using AI, I won't work with you anymore. Yeah. It just makes everyone more efficient. And so then I can create an AI version of myself or someone who knows every aspect of the business. And then you can just ask them questions and they can give you answers. Because you want to remove yourself from the business, because otherwise, you want to get to the point where if you don't want to come in on a Monday, you don't have to come in. You want to take a vacation. You want to go traveling for a year. Everybody wants their time, right? Yeah. I had an architect that was doing some blueprints for our condos, and he was billing by the hour, and he sent me this thing back, and it was him with a pencil drawing something, and I just immediately picked up the phone, and I was like, hey man, I gotta find another architect, because I can't pay $300 an hour for somebody using a pencil when we have AI, but totally. So okay, so we're gonna wrap up here, but we have a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs. Our audience is people who want to start a business. They want to know how to run a business, but a lot of them haven't started yet. So what advice can you give to those people that are still probably working and they're listening to this podcast and they have that idea in the back of their head and they're thinking, how do I launch this? What do I do? What advice can you give those people? Yeah, it's the same advice I just gave myself one day, and that's stop talking about it and do it. Everyone wants to have a business idea. They want to come up with a business plan. They want to do a bunch of research and perfect it. By the time you perfect it, it's already too late. If you have an idea, run with it today. You want to start a business, start it today. What does that look like? Get your URL today. Get your website. Get your social accounts today. Those are all things that take
10 minutes or less, and start building it today. If you try and wait to build the perfect business plan, the perfect product, the perfect service, it's not going to work. You might think you have a good idea or a good product. Your mom and dad might tell you it might be a good product, your friends and family. The only person that's going to tell you if it's a good idea or not is the marketplace. When someone's willing to exchange money for your product or service, right? And so you cannot afford to wait until the perfect time to launch. So stop talking about it today and get started today, because you're going to find things that are going to break and fail along the way, and you're going to adjust and switch this here and switch that there, and you're going to figure things out. So stop talking about it, start today, and the only thing you should be focusing on is getting that first sale, building that minimal viable product, minimal service to get that first sale.
Perfect. Connor with Local Laundry, ladies and gentlemen. So plug your business, man.
Yeah.
Tell people where they can find you. Tell people where they can listen to your business advice. Tell people your Facebook page.
Totally. So feel free to check us out at locallaundry.ca. We Canadian made clothing. You can find us at Local Laundry, or you can follow me personally on all the platforms at Connor with 2 N's, Connor, B as in Bob, Curran, Curran, Connor B. Curran at all the platforms. So.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us today, Connor. You really dropped some awesome nuggets there.
Yeah,
and,
thanks for having me. This is a really cool thing. I think this is going to be super successful. It's a really cool way to see someone who's had a successful exit giving back, creating content like this. It's really aspirational. This is my dream one day. So.
Oh, well, you're already living it. So
Trying. Thanks for having me.
Check out Connor at Local Laundry in Calgary.
Thanks.